Hello and welcome to another episode of Stop and Hop, where we learn to stop a bad quality and hop onto a good one. Today we have here with us Uncle Haney to help us discuss the characteristic that we have, which is overreacting. Hi, Uncle Haney.
Hi, Jessica. Thanks for being here.
Okay, so we had the question of why people overreact.
Yeah, I think for the sake of the program and for people to understand what we're talking about, let's bring an example. So, one of the examples I thought of, say I insulted you. The overreacting person, which we are trying to avoid, could do one of three things. Could respond violently, aggressively, could hate the person who insulted, or withdraw and feel very low self-esteem. So that's, in a way, an overreacting. Another example, say I lost something, or I failed an exam, or I heard that I got a sickness. An overreacting could mean, why should I have this and you don't have it? Why should I have a sickness and you are healthy? So I am jealous, I am envious. Or I start becoming very angry or discontent, and I'm always unhappy about what's happening. A third reaction to the loss is like giving up. Okay, nothing is working, I'm not going to the doctor, or I'm not repeating the exam. So those are possible reaction or overreaction to an action. Another example, which is very common, any problem that I go through it. My car is not working, my relationship with my friends is not successful, any kind of problem. I could go through several feelings. One of them is feeling desperate, feeling hopeless, escaping of the problem completely, and I don't want to discuss it, I don't want to bring it, and every time you bring it, I sort of retract to a different way. Or I feel very puzzled, I don't know what to do. So I think we laid down here what are possible feelings for overreaction. I'm not sure if you have an opinion about that or an example about overreacting. So I wonder if that's okay with you. Should we move to another point? What do you think?
Yeah, so basically what you said is there's three types of situations that we overreact to, like a problem that we have, an insult that we receive, or a failure or a loss, and several types of ways that we can overreact, like being frustrated, being jealous, being angry. So how do we stop, what do we do instead of overreacting?
So I think that if we have to choose from stop overreacting, we want to hop into proactive. And the word proactive means think differently. So if I have a problem, a failure, a loss, an insult, how can I look at that and rather than overreact, have a different mindset in order for me to be proactive rather than overreact? In other words, can I look at these issues and say, maybe God meant for me to have a problem, a failure, an insult? Like, for example, one time David was insulted, and somebody across from the other hill start shouting and saying bad names about David. And one of the generals of David decided he wants to take the permission to go and sort of behead this man. And David very calmly said, leave him. God is allowing me to hear my own insults. So can you imagine a complete different reaction could have been go and cut his head, maybe cut even his wife's head. And David, who is the man of God, who has the mindset of God, became more proactive and decided to say, maybe this is from God. Another way to become proactive is to become more repentant, because usually the person who overreacts is a person who only sees the defects of others and never sees himself. So I'm only seeing, you are insulting me, you are so and so and so. But I never saw that actually the insult that you directed to me, I actually deserve, if not all of it, some of it. So if I'm repentant, if I am able to search myself, examine, and actually go back and think, maybe Jessica, when she said that, I actually deserve that part and that part. And that's called repentance. So a proactive is probably three things: different thinking, accepting the action as if it's from the hands of God, and heartful or an honest type of repentance.
Okay, but don't you think if you say that that you deserve the insult and you'll constantly put yourself down, like if somebody calls you, like I don't know, like they insult you and tell you that you're ugly, like you obviously don't deserve that. So like, what if you overreact to that? Like, how do you be proactive for that situation?
Thank you for telling me I'm not ugly. That's very nice of you. But on the same token, that's a great point, because there's a big difference, or maybe there is a hairline between losing my self-esteem because you insulted me, because I have no self-confidence and I feel I am actually ugly and I deserve being ugly, so I withdrew and I do not talk and I don't go out and all of that. But what I'm trying to say is, by accepting or thinking or analyzing the insult, you look at it and say, what is in it I actually deserve? So if I'm not ugly in face, but maybe my feelings are ugly, maybe the way I react to people, I am a little bit more aggressive. So what I'm saying is, a lot of us deserve to be insulted. One of the fathers once say, it's easier to accept an insult than to accept an honor. Because an honor, you will be blown up and you will feel so boasting and so proudful, and you don't know where you're going with that. But sometimes if we hear a criticism, let's say it's not a real insult, but a criticism. I don't like the way you spoke to me today. You could say, what are you talking about? I always talk right. It's your problem. You are the one who doesn't understand. I didn't mean it this way. Fine. But you could say, oh, really? Oh, I'm sorry. I really didn't mean that you understand it this way. Then you go home and say, you know what? I was really angry at this guy and I didn't know why I was angry. And all of a sudden I'm talking to him in a rough way. So what I'm saying, a criticism could be completely ungrounded, and you should dismiss it because it's unfounded, ungrounded, and this guy is just jealous of you and he's just throwing at you a criticism. But in the same time, you need to analyze. If part of the criticism was founded, then this is where you need to, adjust yourself.
So basically what you said is, if you're being insulted and there's no foundation to it, like you're sure that there's no basis to it, then you shouldn't take it to heart. You should just move on from it. And if you are if you're being criticized and it's like founded somewhere, like you were talking rude to somebody, and maybe you should rethink the way you do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you stand up for yourself without overreacting? If somebody is insulting you and it's completely unfounded, how do you stand up for yourself?
So I think by saying be proactive, that does not mean at all be passive. So if I'm saying do not overreact, I didn't say do not act. I said be proactive. And proactive means stand up for yourself, defend your grounds if you are right, and accept the wrongdoings if you have done wrongdoings. But that doesn't mean at all that you accept everything comes upon you and you become so defenseless and all of a sudden you become a wishy-washy person. Everybody steps upon you on every occasion. That's even Christ himself at the time of the cross, and he is the Lord. He said, why are you hitting me? Why are you doing this to me? That's unfounded. I didn't do anything for you to do this to me. So he stood up for himself. He was ready to accept the blame of the whole world, but in the same time, he was willing also to stand up and say, why?
Okay. I hope you're enjoying the discussion. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Hello, welcome back to Stop and Hop. We are still discussing the problem of overreacting. When we overreact, it's usually prompted by an insult, a problem we're facing, or a failure or loss. Overreacting is when you have an exaggerated response to something, and we need to learn how to be proactive and deal with it. I want to start by asking Uncle Hani the question of what are the complications of overreacting?
So, one of the complications of overreacting that we have seen in the Bible, for example, that Herod, when he assumed that the kings, the Magi, are ignoring him because the angel came to the Magi and told them go from a different route. He assumed they are ignoring him, although they weren't. He became angry, overreacted, and went and killed every single child in Bethlehem 2 years and under. Can you imagine what a response could have been if he was just proactive? He could have sent somebody after them. Why are you not coming back to? Why did you not come back and tell me where is the child? Anything. But look at how much. So the overreaction could result in anger, could result in a major sin, like actually in here was killing, could be actually resulting in sarcasm. So I overreact, and because I am assuming you are insulting me, truly or not truly, I'm start becoming very sarcastic, and I lose the love and kindness of the people around me because I'm always irrational, I'm always impulsive, I'm always overreacting. Also, you develop enemies and you develop more hate among people towards you. And all of a sudden you become alone. And when you become alone, you become desperate. And when you become desperate, you become depressed, and it's a vicious circle. Another bad thing from overreacting is to become more justifying to yourself. You say, oh, it's not my fault, it's their fault. It's always projecting to the other, and I'm justifying that why I'm doing the wrong things, and I'm always right, and I'm Mr. Perfect afterwards. So maybe those are the problems or complications. I'm sure there may be more, but that's what comes to mind now.
Okay, so how do we resolve overreacting? Like, how do we become proactive?
So as we have done in this program, I'm always using 3 verbs: revise, resist, and replace. Also, always the 3 R's. So in revise, the first thing, why don't you think, if Christ in my place, how would he react or proact? Meaning, if I know that, for example, I'm invited in a party, as Christ was invited with his mother to Cana, and they asked him to do something, he could have said, why are you asking me? I'm coming here as a guest. Why should I serve you? But if I am wearing Christ's shoes, or I put Christ in my shoes, actually he was able to serve, although he's a guest of honor. So if I can put Christ in my shoes, I probably will know when I'm overreacting and how I can become proactive. The second thing about review or revise, I should review in my head why I'm upset, why I got angry, why I feel insulted, why I feel they are better than me. Maybe it's all within me rather than without me. Maybe it's actually the problem is in me rather than in you. I'm assuming you're insulting me, but you were criticizing an action I supposed to correct in me. But because I don't like you, I'm assuming you are insulting me. So review how people are reacting, and review also how you are thinking of their actions before you make a decision. The second point is replace. Replace an overreaction with a better action. For example, in Proverbs, there is a verse says, if your enemy is hungry, give him bread to eat, and if he is thirsty, give him water to drink. It's basically a replacement of one action to another. An action of, I see a hungry man and I turn around and I don't care. I see a thirsty or a needy guy and I say, it's not my cousin, why should I give him anything? And I'm replacing this passivity, negativity, or looking down at the guy and say, he doesn't deserve, to why don't I become proactive?
Yeah, like a real world application to this would be that one time there was this boy and he was being bullied by people at his school, and then he just started, instead of overreacting and hating them and being depressed, he decided that he was going to open the door for them at school every day, and he was being kind, and as a result they stopped bullying him because he was being so nice. So
that's an amazing story.
Yeah.
I think one day we should be talking about bullying, but that's a beautiful story, that rather than I could go and cry my eyes off to my mom every day, people are bullying me, people don't like me, the whole world is against me. This guy, becoming proactive, went and opened the door, and this kind action changed people. It changed the bullying act. Yeah. So that's a very nice story that you shared. Thank you. I think the third thing is, we said review, replace, and resist. Resist the feeling that you are always being a victim. See, the problem with overreacting in today's society, that I am victimizing myself. I'm always feeling I'm under attack. I'm not being loved. I'm not being cared. I'm not being respected. And all of a sudden, here I am. I have to push myself into the world. And maybe if I resist that feeling, I will be able to proactively think what's the right response. Also, I need to have a positive perception to the people reacting or dealing with me. If I encourage people, if I give them positive enforcement to what they say, what they do, I probably will get better actions and I'll receive a better response. Also, being flexible. Some of us are so rigid that it's either this way or no way. Either we go all of us to this mall, or I'm not going with you to the other mall. But there is a group of friends, and the majority decided, as nice Christian group, they are going to go for cup of coffee somewhere. No, you have to go here. And all of a sudden, I resist, I become angry, and I become stubborn. But if I'm a bit flexible and I say, what's the difference between my point and their point? Am I only trying to prove I am the leader, or there is a different response? So all of a sudden, I look at this and I say, why I'm being rigid about it? So sometimes going out of your way to please others is great. Finally, we need to all realize that the definition or the meaning of success is getting God's will to be done. And God's will, by the way, can be done in an overreactive person. Because an overreactive does not leave a space for God to show His will. He is almost impulsive. He takes an action before he even takes a second to lift up his eyes and say, God, what's your will? Should I go, should I not? Should I respond or not? Should I defend this or not defend this? So I am amazed how our fathers, the forefathers in the Bible or the fathers of the church, have always taught us, think before you respond. I used to have a father of confession, a father in our church who went to heaven many years ago. He used to tell us when we were young, count without anyone noticing up till 10, and don't ever answer before 8. Not because of anger, but that will calm you and will allow you to respond better. So review, resist, and replace.
Thank you, Uncle Haney.
Thank you.
Okay, today this episode was about overreacting and how we could be more proactive. We should always stop before we react and think about what God would do if He was in our place, what Jesus Christ would do if He was in our place. All right, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.